It's a little bit cold outside today, but I still felt like I want to be inspired by the fresh air and sound of birds. So the naked truth is going to not take the risk of getting sick. So it's going to be covered. But that doesn't mean it's a lie. Anyhow, let's begin. No man is free who cannot command himself. In the big picture of life, we all know a very small portion of what is true, while most of life remains as an unknown mystery. And every time we're faced with the unknown, we seek a form of control over something or someone, as that gives us the impression of safety. Until we start to understand that no matter how much control we try to exert over anything outside of us, nothing is forever permanent. So this desire or seeking to have a grip over something creates attachments that we start to cling onto for our own sense of safety. And so in turn, this clinginess starts to rob us from our own freedom of truly feeling empowered and having a sense of control. Imagine for a moment you have a person who validates how you look and makes you feel attractive. And so they begin to meet your need to feel desired. It is very easy to slip into the pleasure of turning them into your source of self-esteem. So you start to cling onto them for your own sense of self-worth and value. And when unaware of this dependency you created, you start to control them through different methods, where some may be more unhealthy than others. Because this is what we do when we are dependent on something or someone. We seek control over them. Let's say if I was not addicted to sugar, to experience a sweet taste in my life, I would easily give this cookie. Imagine I have a cookie. I don't have one with me right now. But if I had a cookie with me right now, I would easily give this cookie away or put it to the side and be able to say no to it. But when that cookie becomes my source of sweetness, I guard it. I hide it. I become possessive over it. And unfortunately, many have more of this type of relationship and attachment to things and people, keeping them in your life for your own selfish benefit of what you get out of them, whether that's validation or something else, which in fact skews your perceptions and makes one believe that control is a form of love. But in reality, that is not love, but seeking to possess a thing, to experience a sense of security through having the power of control or of ownership over it. While love is when we already feel secure and have the desire to give, to provide, to nurture, and etc. It is a very fine line for many to distinguish the difference, because one is the security found from getting, while the other is the security found from giving. Because when we are aware of our own value and what we give, and it is not tied or dependent on anything outside of us, we realize that the source of that fountain of fruitful giving only exists within. And since it exists within, the only commander to the flow of it is you. But in this example that I gave you, where you need to feel validated turns into the desire to seek control over another, rather than becoming a route for deeper self-introspection, it only goes to amplify your inner state of insecurity and inability for having the capacity to internally validate yourself or to find that value in yourself. Because the ability for internal validation only comes with recognizing your own value and the reality of it, your inherent value and the value you bring to life. So when there is no clear perception of one's own value and truth of who you are, you start being dependent on and using others or things as crutches to keep your insecurities under control. And insecurities, in this sense, simply refer to the lack of security of inner knowing or the lack of truth one holds about himself. So, the only way to freedom or to free oneself of the dominating insecurities is by learning to have control over them. But here, I don't even want to use the word control, since in actuality, we do not have control over anything, because nothing is ever constant. Yes, and I may be getting very philosophical here, but not even your emotions are ever permanent. So you cannot just suddenly stop feeling a certain way and get full control of what else is resurfacing and coming out to the surface emotionally. But what you can do is command them. Commanding means to be able to navigate them. We're not trying to stop them nor repress them. Instead, we're trying to have awareness around them, around their presence. We start understanding where you can get extremely destructive, or in some cases neglectful, so you navigate the process to find a place of equilibrium. It's only when we find a place of inner equilibrium or learn how to navigate ourselves to get to that place, we recognize what is it that safety we are indeed seeking for. Safety that is not transit or dependent on our possessions, but safety in our own self-worth. So to navigate through this process and finding that sense of self, I want to give you a very simple and easy to follow way or approach to do so. And as some of you may already know, I use the language of astrology to apply these philosophical principles, since they all show up differently and in different areas of life for everyone. I certainly do not believe one way works for all. As if it was all that simple, then we wouldn't have such challenging time navigating through this process. Navigating through our emotions and finding that inner state of equilibrium or safety. This navigational process, you can also look at it as a way to align with your own energy and learn to emotionally navigate your process. To understand why in certain situations you feel a certain way or you're triggered a certain way or you have the tendency to react a certain way or meet different obstacles or face different challenges. And for this example, I would like for you to pull up your first natal chart. And for those who don't know how to read your birth chart, I have a video on that already, which I'm going to put the link to that video here below. So now once you pull out your natal chart, you will see there are 12 houses and 12 signs, which in short point to what energy you carry and are here to express in the different areas of life. And my goal here is to guide you to your own way of expression, your own way of processing information and how you interact and play it out in life. Both the destructive tendencies you have and learn how to command this energy in a higher vibrational way. And to give you a quick example how this can play out, let's say you have the capacity to be assertive and a pioneer in your workplace. And that energy is very prominent for people with Aries in the 6th house, or Mars in the 6th house, or Mars in Virgo. But let's stick to the basics. If you have Aries in your 6th house, then you have the potential to be a leader in your work, in your day-to-day life. And you like to take the position of being in charge, to have a routine and be in charge of how things are gonna go. But that also makes you very prone to conflicts and disputes. So for you, it would be really important to learn patience in the workplace, patience in your everyday interactions, because you have the tendency to react impulsively, and that can cause destructive experiences, which can be prevented once your assertive energy is investing in taking initiatives while cultivating patience, rather than exploding or being critical and rash with those who do not follow your lead right away. So the way for you to learn to command your own energy here is to accept that you can be quick to anger. And because now you know that, your job is to learn to control your own impulsivity, your own impatience, and try to learn to take it easy. And we all have this impulsive and impatient energy in some area of our life, whether that is in regards to our work, family, children, friends, etc. So of course we cannot blame all of these players in our life for certain disruptions we experience or try to constantly control them so they can follow our orders. But what we can learn is to control our own impatience and create awareness through our own destructive behavior. Because ultimately that's self-awareness about our own behavior. It teaches us where we stand in relationship to all, but also it teaches us about our values or what we bring to the table in all of the different parts of our life, in all of the different stages of our life. So let's get into it now and go over each individual sign and what you need to learn to command your own energetic flow. This is sort of like a joke, but this video has the flavor of learning Stoicism through astrology. Maybe that's how I'm going to title it, so let's see. So where you have Aries in your natal chart, you need to learn to control your anger. In that area where Aries lives in your chart, you're prone to anger very easily, and you're very prone to act impulsively and be highly impatient. And so when you're not in control of your own anger, you are also susceptible to be the cause for arguments, fights, destructive events, and experiences around you in your day-to-day life. So your main goal here is to learn patience and take it easy rather than be over demanding and aggressive. Let's say you have Aries in your 4th house or the bottom of your chart. Then you can be constantly battling with your emotions, and living with you for some may feel like living on a battlefield because you constantly need and seek things to be your way, and unless it's your way, you don't feel emotionally settled. So you'll need to navigate to cultivating more patience at home. If Aries is in your 5th house, let's say, this will be in regards to your lovers and your children. You may be very demanding towards them, so you would need to learn to cultivate more patience there. And following this, for example, if it's in the 8th house, it would be towards intimacy and sex, and so on and so on. And of course, it will be challenging to cultivate patience and find harmony in that area, because where we have Aries, it would still require us to be in charge, to be the initiator. But the way is not through anger or impulsivity. We need to set the direction. We need to be the one who leads the way. But at the same time, we also need to learn to be patient to how and when exactly it plays out. I want to point out here, we do not eliminate or suppress any energy we carry. We are here to learn to navigate it and use it in the most optimal way without destroying both of our health and mental sanity and that of others. So to tie it in here into a sentence, and you can use this to play with your own chart. Let's put it this way. We can say my impulse is geared towards, and now here you can replace with a word pertaining to the area of each house Aries in. Say if it's 4th house, it will be emotional stability. If it's 7th house, my partnership. If it's 10th house, my reputation, and so on and so on. So my impulse is geared towards, while I need to cultivate patience through all of the challenges and obstructions in achieving it. Now, where you have Taurus in your natal chart, you need to control your tendency for greediness and laziness. You can be very frugal, selfish, and stubborn, constantly seeking the pleasure of getting for your own self-comfort, but not giving back in return. So let's say you have Taurus in the 7th house. You may be lazy in regards to your partnerships. You can even get too stuck in doing the same thing, going to the same places, doing everything that you find familiar and known and comfortable. But you can do it to your own detriment, because it will be extremely difficult for you to venture out and do something maybe your partner wants to do. The following scenario can be something the way that it plays out. Let's say your partner wants to travel to Bali. In your mind, it is, why shall I go to Bali when I can go to my local beach town on vacation? It will be cheaper and the trip is going to be shorter. So it's going to take me less time to actually get there. And in this case, do you see how in terms of spending money, you may be stingy? You may not even allow yourself once in a while to experience something different or enjoy something different. It's always getting out of your comfort zone, which can cause rigidity and laziness in that particular life area, as it creates a very heavy attachment to the material sense of comfort, the comfort that is familiar and known. So what will be important for you is to challenge yourself and break through your own short-term stubbornness and laziness, especially in regards to change. Because if you do not challenge your comfort zone, you never know when big changes can come into your life. And they can be very destructive or feel very shocking to your overall sense of comfort. So you can still look for a sense of stability and comfort in that life area where you have Taurus, but not at the cost of being completely lazy and stubborn, again, to your own detriment. We all know when we don't make the changes, life or the universe brings them to us regardless. And to tie it in here into a sentence, so we can say, my laziness plays out, and you can substitute it with a word pertaining to the life area or house Taurus is in. While I need to learn to enjoy investing my resources for expansion and spiritual growth. Now, where you have Gemini in your natal chart, you need to learn to control your superficiality and tendency to gossip and lie. In that life area, you may be very curious and playful. You may want to know everything and share information, but not take the time to think it through. not take the time to process and learn it in depth and communicate from a place of sincerity and true understanding. So when you have this sort of like nervous feeling, overexcited and eager and flighty and curious, which could also feel and bring up anxieties, try to take a step back to acquire more information before deciding what is worth sharing and what is not. Because this can lead to oversharing, being too nosy or superficial. It can ruin your credibility and impact your trustworthiness. For example, you may have Gemini in the 11th house, which can make you very superficial in regards to your friendships. Either you have many friends or consider everyone easily to be your friend. So, this superficial or naive approach can make you easily susceptible to get yourself tied up in gossip and intrigues with others, making it challenging to sustain and create real and true friendships. Friendships also based on confidentiality. So, your lesson is to learn to be more selective and invest more time in learning that it's not always about fun and games, but also about taking accountability, which builds trust and longevity in your friendships and friend like interactions. Don't ask me where I made this up from. So to tie this here into a sentence, we can say, my superficiality plays out. Now we put in what life area or what house you have Gemini in, and I need to learn to stop lying to myself and others about it. I learn to be more responsible about what I communicate in that field, in that area in my life, and on the information that I share. Where you have Cancer in your natal chart, you need to control your self-pity tendencies. To feel like a victim, helpless and insecure. In that life area, you may be very quick to take things personal and make everything all about you and your emotions, and in a way you seek for sympathy. And yes, sometimes everyone needs a shoulder to cry on and feel emotionally hurt, but not to the point of becoming so self absorbed and consumed by your own emotions that you need everybody to be constantly engaged in your own emotional drama. For example, if you have Cancer in the first house, you have these tendencies altogether in your life as a whole. Or if you have Cancer in the second house, you derive your value and worth when you have someone emotionally nurturing you, neglecting, and you may be neglecting your own need to also take responsibility for your feelings, especially in moments where you may be feeling low or going through a challenging time in life. But that experience is there to help you learn how to deal with such events and experiences so you can share a solution of how you were emotionally able to take control over yourself rather than feel pity for yourself. Because you're also very emotionally in tune in that area. This is where you have very strong intuition. And you can use that experience and the process you went through as a way to help and nurture someone who is going through a similar event or experience. So when you get out of being so absorbed in your own emotions and pitifying yourself, you see that your value lies in actually being able to relate and care for those in similar circumstances. That's if you have Cancer in the second house. Again, that self-pity is going to, or those self-pity tendencies are going to play differently depending on where you have Cancer in your birth chart. So to tie this here into a sentence, we can say my self-pity and emotional attachment plays out. And here we can add the area of life where Cancer sits in your birth chart. Again, 10th house can be career, 8th house intimacy and sex, 7th house partnership, 6th house daily habits and your health, 5th house love and children and creative projects. And here you also need to learn to emotionally relate to others instead of closing off in your own feelings, in your own emotional experience. Where you have Leo in your natal chart, you need to learn to control your pridefulness. Because your pride, in general, pride can be to our detriment in that area of life, as it can close you off to being giving of love, and that also affects your ability to be creative and express fully. So where you have Leo in your chart, you need to give through creative ways of expression, different ways of expression, and learn that you do not always need the validation and recognition in return. You need to find your own happiness in giving, as joy is found in the expression itself. Whoever loves it and is naturally attracted to you, great. But whoever doesn't, they're also free to walk away. And it is all okay, and there is nothing to prove or show off here. For example, you have Leo in the ninth house, and your meaning in life comes through love in your creative expression. So let's say if someone doesn't like how you showcase your love, maybe you can be even very demonstrative about it. And certain people can consider it as it's a lot, it's too much, and they don't align or agree with your beliefs. That doesn't mean you need to pridefully guard them, to guard your beliefs, or to deny another person access to speaking with you, as you didn't feel like they validated your own brilliance. Instead, you need to learn that they're free to not join in on your party. They're free not to find this as meaningful as you do. So they're free to have their beliefs and opinions. While you're also free to continue enjoy being creative and expressing yourself in a way that brings you joy, and share it with those who vibrate on your frequency. And here it's not about the showcasing or the need to be demonstrative, but rather the desire to create and to express yourself simply because it makes you happiness and it brings you joy. So to tie it here into a sentence, we can say my generosity plays out, because this is where we need to be generous, where we have Leo. And now you can add in the house where Leo is in. If it's in the 11th house, in regards to your friends, in the 7th house, you need to be generous towards your partners and so on. And I let go of my prideful tendencies to entertain others as a way to demonstrate my specialness. Rather create and continue to do that I love, because it makes me happy. And so my generosity flows through my joy. Now where you have Virgo in your chart, you need to be less critical, pessimistic, and nitpicky. It is in that area of life where you seek for perfection and have such high expectations that when they're not met, you become very skeptical. For example, you have Virgo in your 11th house. You will have these expectations and be very critical of your friends. Meanwhile, if you have Virgo, let's say in your 5th house, you will have these tendencies to be very nitpicky towards your lovers. And falling in love with you will be about perfection and ultimate honesty. And while that is great, it may also seem almost impossible for anyone to meet your perfectionistic expectations. So it is important to learn to be less skeptical towards others and to learn cultivating more faith and acceptance. So to tie it here into a sentence, we can say my perfectionism plays out. And now we say a word about the house you have Virgo in. So my perfectionism plays out, and I choose to have more faith that what is right for me is out there. While now I trust that I have all that I already need, and there is no need to eagerly seek to correct it. Now, where you have Libra in your chart, you need to be more decisive and avoid constant people pleasing or seeking to be liked. This is where you can use your diplomatic skills in asserting your decisions, but it's important to be careful and to avoid not making any decisions altogether, or even to avoid fearing to make a decision because, let's say, if you express an opinion, that it may lead to a conflict where you can be disapproved of. Because that lack of deciding sometimes leads to more internal torment, and so it transfers the conflict to be internalized. Let's say, for example, you have Libra in your 8th house. So when it comes to intimacy, you may want to communicate what you like and do not like, instead of constantly trying to sense and please your partner, or refrain yourself speaking up on what you find is pleasurable, and only out of fear of not possibly not being accepted for it. And in this way, you're also choosing silently to manipulate that intimate dynamic. But true intimacy you can build in your willingness to communicate and confront where each individual stands in that regard or in that relationship. So to tie this here into a sentence, we can say my indecisiveness plays out. And now we can add a word to the life area that you have the tendency to be indecisive. So I look for a partner to communicate with on the matter of that concern. As through our dialogue, I gain the clarity I need to make a decision. When a Libra feels indecisive, she needs to find the right partner to converse with. Where you have Scorpio in your chart, you need to be aware of your obsessive tendencies and seeking to control. For example, you have Scorpio in the 5th house. You can be very controlling and manipulative towards your children and lovers. Whereas if you have Scorpio in the 3rd house, you may exert this obsessive behavior and manipulation towards your siblings. Just be manipulative of the information when you communicate. Be manipulative in your speech. In a way, you may seek to withhold information or something that you know, as it gives you power and control over others. And also, this obsessiveness can cause paranoia. So, therefore, it is important to create awareness to where you have these tendencies so you can choose to penetrate and question your own behavioral ways so you can transform by letting go of it. It's only this awareness of where you have these tendencies will give you more freedom and a peace of mind instead of building resentment inside by trying to deny them. And to tie it here into a sentence, we can say, my obsession and need of control plays out. In what area of life does it play out, those obsessive tendencies? And here you can see where Scorpio is in your natal chart and add in a word. And I trust myself to let go of being so fixated there, as I have no control of the unknown, but I can control the degree to which I trust myself in handling any situation in that area of my life. Now, where you have Sagittarius in your chart, you need to stop the constant need to move and be able to stay in one place and just hold. Hold, stop, and feel the moment. I think that's going to be your motto. As you may constantly seek to be on the go, to travel, to gain knowledge and information, but you tend to lose and miss on the moment of here and now. It's like you're here in this experience, but are already thinking of what's next, so you're never truly present in here. And you also need to be aware because you may have the tendency of being arrogant. So where you have Sagittarius in your chart, you need to learn more humility and simply to surrender in the moment. For example, you may have Sagittarius in the second house and may find it challenging to value being in the moment with what you already know, with what normally you find comfortable. You may constantly seek ways to grow your security and comfort and material possessions while you're into the spiral of like, I want more material things and I want more comfort, but for the least amount of effort and input. So you can also have the tendency of constantly changing your place if you feel uncomfortable for a moment. But for you, it's important to learn to stay in that discomfort. And possibly there is a spiritual message for you to learn there. And when you neglect it, you start exuding this arrogant behavior. So to tie it in here into a sentence, we can say, my meaning is tied to being here and now. And here you can add in a word to the house where Sagittarius is in. And I find growth and expansion from being in the moment as I let go of my arrogant tendencies to be constantly on the go and to be continuously chasing as if there is always something better out there, but not now. So I need to hold on and stop. Now, where you have Capricorn in your natal chart, you need to control generalizing and compartmentalizing everything and everyone. Sounds like these people, these things are like this or like that. So you need to control your disdainful tendencies. Is you never compromise with yourself, but you have the tendency to expect way too much from others. So look where you have Capricorn in your chart and where your cynical tendencies start playing out. You cannot sum everything up and disregard others. And for example, you have Capricorn in the 7th house. You can be very cold and disregarding towards your partners, especially in your early years, or the role they play in your life or in your interaction. You may have unbelievably high expectations of them while you are not being able to meet those same standards that you set. So instead, where you have Capricorn in your chart, you will need to learn to be more accepting and supportive. Reassess your expectations without disregarding the needs of others. So to tie it here into a sentence, we can say, my rules and principles apply to me, and I strive to uphold to them. And where do I strive to uphold to them, in what area of life? So look where you have Capricorn in your chart. While I release my need or my expectations of others to fulfill my ways, as everyone can choose their own standards to live by. Instead, I learn to support others in their chosen path and allow myself to possibly learn a different way, or learn to be more flexible in my perspective. Where you have Aquarius in your chart, you need to control yourself from being too chaotic and tied to your specialness and uniqueness. In that area, you're very prone to have a godlike complex and create unnecessary disturbances for the sake of shaking the norm. You need to understand that some people like the norm and more traditional way of work or of life, and that there is beauty in that, so it doesn't make it something less than. Because sometimes trying to show off your uniqueness does not bring any significant impact for innovation, or rather, it can also be just a storm without a cause. Now, for example, you may have Aquarius in the 10th house. You may seek to gain public recognition and be respected for your odd or against the norm stand on things, or for your out of the box work or creative projects or principles you follow. But what you stand for and what seek to be respected for is not backed up with significant experiences and knowledge or work or products. Instead, what you gain is a reputation of a chaotic freak. So what you need to learn is to express your uniqueness in a structured way, whether that is through a unique way of communicating, especially if Aquarius is in your third house, or through unique and offbeat relationships if you have Aquarius in your seventh house, or maybe if you have Aquarius in the 12th house, through your unique creative innovations. You can actually have a lot of breakthroughs in different artistic fields. But what you need to learn there is to bring form to chaos. And so to tie this here into a sentence, we can say, my rebelliousness plays out. And now we say in what area of life, and you can add a word to the house that it plays out, or where you have Aquarius in, which I direct towards finding a form to serve and allow that form to speak as my unique expression. And the last one, where you have Pisces in your chart, you need to be aware of where you're prone to illusions, addictions, alcohol, drugs, medications, and different fantasy escapes. Instead, it is advised to direct that energy in a creative or spiritual outlet. For example, you may have Pisces in the third house. You may have illusions about what you learn and how you communicate, and also about driving. You're someone who can have the tendency to be easily distracted when you drive, so it is important for you to eliminate distractions like talking on the phone while driving. You need to try to avoid speeding because your perception might not be very accurate. You may even want to select the right music for you when you drive so you can be more focused, or have your GPS on, as you may lose track of your environment and get lost. you can be very prone to that. It might be even helpful for you to drive on cruise control, so your speed is regulated. Or let's say if you have Pisces in the 11th house, you may have illusions about your real friends, who your real friends are, or become friends with people with addictions and self-destructive behaviors. So instead, you may rather choose finding friends amongst those in creative and artistic fields, or meet friends around those who have more spiritual inclinations. And to tie this here into a sentence, we can say, my illusions play out. And here we can say something about the house where you have Pisces in your chart. Whether let's say that's the head 8th house, you have illusions regarding your intimacy, 7th house partnerships, 10th house about what to be respected for, and etc. And I direct my energy towards charity, spirituality, or working in hospitals and isolated places, because illusions are transformed the moment they are turned into practical outlet that serves those in need. Wow, here we are. Thank you so much for watching. I made it before it gets completely dark outside, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. If you have questions, let me know down below. And subscribe, like, and share. And I'll see you next time. Baby, it's cold outside. Oh, so cold outside. Let's get cozy inside.